turn down this audio here. There we go. And let me get a little music for us, and we are golden. Good Sunday morning. It's time for Clubhouse Chatter. Here's Norm or Dez.
Man, Brian, it's been a while. I thought you almost forgot my last name there, Brian. So, hey, good morning from wet and windy Eola Hills outside of Amity, Oregon, up here in beautiful wine country. I'd like to give a shout out to a couple of people before we get rolling this morning. A former football player of mine, Luke Deem, his son Jacob is in Portland Hospital. I don't want to say he's necessarily fighting for his life, but he's in pretty rough shape. So little Jacob up there, just want to let you know that we're thinking of you and praying. Also, little Elise Ritter down in Mississippi. Chrissy, her mom, Chrissy, and I went to school in Idaho, and man, Chrissy's fighting cancer. And it seems like, or not Chrissy, but Elise, and it seems like, it's a little thing after a little thing with her. And so just still trying to figure things out. Just want to say, hey, we're thinking of you. I am wearing my childhood cancer hat from Baseballisms. If you like that, I will let you know how we can get you one. So our first guest this morning is Jim Mecir. Jim, did I pronounce your last name right?
Yeah, one of the few. Thanks.
All right. So Jim pitched for 5 teams, an 11-year Major League Baseball career. He pitched with the Mariners, the Yankees, the Rays. Back then it was the Devil Rays, the A's, and the Marlins. Jim, good morning.
Good morning to you. Thanks for having me.
So, first of all, man, 11 years, that's quite a career.
Yeah, I was blessed. It was a long run, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
And you had lived through the Moneyball period of the A's, and here in a little bit we'll get your take on the Moneyball aspect of it. But do you have a favorite moment of your 11-year Major League career?
My favorite moment is my Major League debut. I grew up in Long Island, New York, so I was a huge Yankee fan. And in 1995, I made my debut in Yankee Stadium against the Yankees. And I pitched my longest outing in my career, 3 2/3 innings. I didn't give up a run, and I also faced my childhood idol, Don Mattingly, and it was the last month of his career. And I held him hitless in 2 at-bats, and this is in front of all my friends and family. So I can never really duplicate that feeling.
Wow, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine pitching against my childhood favorite, Dale Murphy. Yeah, that must have been pretty intense.
Yeah, it's almost like I remember it outside my body because it was just exactly like a dream come true. So it was really it was crazy.
So getting to the point of pitching in the major leagues. So you were born with birth defect, and
right.
you were born. Now, see if I get this right. You were born with 2 club feet.
No, I always have it in there. I don't know why it's a misprint. I was born with right club foot.
Okay.
So, all right, so my right foot was turned up and in towards my left leg, and usually it's not that difficult for somebody to overcome because they put casts and braces, and sometimes that works. Then sometimes people need an Achilles heel surgery. They just cut some tendons and ligaments, loosen them. Your foot goes back to position. But when I turned 7, they noticed I was limping badly, and I was trying to revert back to that position when I was born, so they needed to reconstruct my foot. So when I was done with the rehab, I had a leg that was an inch shorter than my left leg. My calf was half the size of my left leg, and had a fused ankle. It only had a couple of degrees of extension and flexion, and I couldn't rebuild that calf back up. And then the usual, I think everybody has it as club foot, but my right foot was 2 shoe sizes smaller than my left.
Wow.
And it took away that athletic ability because even at age 7, I knew when I was 6, I was way better than everybody at all the sports. And then 7, I couldn't quite do the same things that I used to be able to do.
And so how, obviously, you still made it to the major leagues. And so how did that affect you, though, on the mound?
Well, I have mechanics like no one else, so I even teach lessons, and I tell kids do not watch video of me because it's wrong. I pull off the ball totally. I don't go forward as much. My stride is shorter than everybody else's. I never land on anybody's hole, and that caused me. I couldn't throw a good curveball or slider. And I saw my college pitching coach, his name was Rich Folkers, teaching a lefty how to throw a screwball because Rich was a former big leaguer that actually threw the screwball. And I just started throwing it because I really had nothing else to work with, and it became my signature pitch.
And you mastered that.
Right, and also my crazy mechanics also gave me a lot of movement on my ball because I kind of yanked sideways, so I could never throw a ball straight even if I tried.
Right. So 11 years in the major leagues, and you said that your highlight was facing Mattingly in Yankee Stadium. Do you have any other memories that would rank right up there with those?
Well, it's got to be getting my ring with the 1996 Yankees, being in the ticker tape parade in New York. Playing for the very first game for the Devil Rays and watching Wade Boggs get his 3,000th hit on a home run. Even the Oakland A's that was the only time I ever got to go to the playoffs, and that was 4 straight years in a row. So I had a lot of things. It's just that first one is, that dream you have as a kid, so that's kind of hard to top.
That's special, definitely. So so you were in Oakland from 2000 to 2004. So you're there for Michael Lewis's Moneyball, best-selling book Moneyball: The Art of Winning in an Unfair Game. So when you first saw Moneyball, what did you think?
They did a really good job. Usually, baseball movies aren't that good. They'll pick actors that they don't really look like baseball players. The athletic ability. They'll change a lot of characters, but it was pretty close. A couple of characters, I thought their personality was a little off, but you're going to expect that in a movie because they're going to try to sensationalize it. But right. I think they did a really good job. Plus, it was hard to like because players were originally supposed to be in it. So I went down with about 6 or 7 players, and we were going to actually be in that movie, playing ourselves, just throwing in the outfield or whatever. They sold that movie. So I think Soderbergh was supposed to do that movie first. Whoever had the rights to the movie didn't like the way the movie was going, and they told them it's done, and I guess they sold it to Sony, and none of the players were involved.
So our friend Casey Bond played Bradford in that, and Casey, so I worked with the Salem Kaiser Volcanoes and the San Francisco Giants for a number of years, and so Casey was a former Volcano. So I love the movie, and I wasn't with the A's during that time, but I know a lot of the people who were playing in that and stuff, and during that time, and it was like what you said, it was a decent baseball movie. They had sensationalized a couple of things, but other than that, I thought it was pretty decent.
Right. Well, I loved I thought the movie was good. I just didn't like how they portrayed Art Howe. That was the only one that I was like, that was because he's a great man. He's one of the nicest guys in baseball, and Hoffman played him, and they kind of made him look like a jerk, and it really wasn't that way. So that kind of annoyed me about the movie. That's pretty much the only thing, though. So
let's talk about growing up. So growing up in New York, so you grew up a fan of the Yankees, and you grew up a fan of Don Mattingly. Who else did you follow?
I followed the Yankees and Mets. So I liked both until about '83 when the Mets started getting good and the Yankees weren't so good. And then people started jumping on the Mets bandwagon, and I couldn't take that, so I became exclusively a Yankee fan. So I liked them all. It didn't matter. Either Yankee, I loved the whole thing. So that was just, as a kid, baseball was my life, so the Yankees were everything.
So that very first game in Yankee Stadium, when you struck out Mattingly a couple times, were you able to chat with Mattingly afterwards?
No. And, I was a rookie. It's my first day. I was just happy to even be there. It was just like, all right, keep quiet, just move along.
And that is the way
after it was, it was just a big pile of nerves. I got called up 3 days before, and I hardly slept or ate, and I was visibly shaking. So it was an intense time, that's for sure.
What was the best piece of advice that anybody had given you in your baseball career?
I guess there's a couple. My best coach was probably my college coach, Rich Folkers, the guy I told you that threw the screwball. He taught me a couple things. It was always about don't try to throw hard, which is pretty simple, but growing up, everybody always forgets that because the key is always show something on that radar gun so you're special, which, you have it or you don't. After that, it's just about pitching. And one of the most important things, I believe, is he said, I'd rather you throw the wrong pitch with conviction than the right one without it. He basically said, make sure when you're on that mound, you're comfortable whatever the pitch is, or else you're going to have doubt and you're not going to throw that to the best of your ability.
And you travel around the country now doing motivational speaking. And tell us a little bit about that.
I'll actually do two things. So I speak about confidence and overcoming your negative voice, and also teamwork. And I also work with a partner. She has a company, Improv Talk, and we will go around to corporations and we teach teamwork skills using improv and also reinforcing it with stories that I tell from the mound that directly relate to improv and business.
All right. And so when you're giving your motivational speech, when you're talking about teamwork, give us a good piece of advice that you would give somebody during your seminar.
Well, it's really about relationships. People don't realize when you're playing sports, you're out there, you're just worried about being the best you can physically and mentally, and you're not really worried about the other players. I mean, you want to win, but we forget it is a team sport. A couple of best teams I've ever played for, one, namely, say, my high school team. We weren't supposed to go anywhere. We didn't really have the potential or the ability, and we went to the state championship game. And the one thing about that team is that everybody built a relationship. There was no individual, and we constantly motivated each other to win, and no one worried about what their average was or what their stats were. We wanted to win the game. And that's the most important thing. People now, they don't really build relationships. They're just working side by side with each other, and that, that doesn't work. When you don't have trust, it's hard to have a team.
Right. That's a pretty good piece of advice. So we're showing some pictures as we're doing the show, and we're going through a couple of your baseball cards. And what was it like the very first time that you were put on a baseball card? I'm not necessarily talking about like a minor league card. I'm talking about, your first year Topps card or Bowman. What was that like?
The first card was horrendous. I got a card, I want to say it was a 91 card where people were taking pictures when you're drafted. Mm-hmm. And they put us in normal clothes, and it was just, people, my friends just get on me all the time. They actually made a fat head on my baseball card because it's just so ridiculous. I'm in this ugly shirt, standing in the Arizona background. But when I got my first card, which was with the Devil Rays, I never got a card with the Yankees, I guess, because I was up and down too much. Right. But yeah, when I first got that card after my first year with the Devil Rays, it was pretty special. It was pretty cool seeing that.
And now, did you pitch with the Rays when Jim Morse was there?
Yes. Yep. He was there in 1999.
And talk to us about that. Did you have a pretty decent relationship with him?
Well, the bad part is I got hurt. I broke my elbow in half and had it wired, and that was the time when he was going through the whole thing. So I only caught glimpses of it because I wasn't there all the time with the games.
How did you?
Yeah, he was. Jim was just a very quiet, nice Southern guy. He didn't say much. And he kind of just sat around and he listened and he took everything in. But, it was fun watching him being able to do what he did.
How did you break your elbow?
I had olecranon non-union. So when you're younger, your growth plates, sometimes they don't totally close. And I remember I was in high school and I was flying somewhere and I kept leaning on my elbow and sharp pain would come through. And I went to the doctors and they x-rayed it and they said, well, your olecranon, it's got a non-union, but you'll be fine. Usually it grows back. Just don't throw or do anything. So I didn't do anything for a while. Never thought about it again. And then when I was with the Devil Rays in 99, I was fooling around with a couple of pitchers. And Rick White, I don't know if remember Rick White, the reliever?
Yep.
He's a very big boy. He's probably about 240, 250. And he ended up, his body weight was on my legs, and I told him to get up, and he wouldn't get up, so I just took my right arm and I went to push up, and it just snapped in half.
Ouch.
So they just said it wasn't, there's only a little bit of bone holding that elbow together. A lot of it was just cartilage.
Right.
So they just have a rod and wire it together.
So while you're in the major leagues or even in the minor leagues, who would you say was the player that you least like to face the least? Was there a player that you loved to face, and then was there a player that you dreaded coming up to bat?
Major leagues too, you're saying?
Absolutely anywhere. Yeah, anytime in your career.
In the major leagues, my Babe Ruth was Rusty Greer. He hit 3 home runs off me. He was, I believe, 9 for 14, and I just couldn't get him out for whatever reason. And then the odd thing was, he's a lefty and kind of a gap hitter. Mm-hmm. I could hit home runs. He was kind of like Paul O'Neill, but I could get Paul O'Neill out all the time. Huh. So it's kind of strange how it works where, because people would probably say Paul O'Neill's a better hitter, but to me, he wasn't.
Right. And Rusty Greer had a decent career. He had a pretty good career.
Oh, yeah. I think he had a great career, but he's not that's also against the team he played for. If he played for the Yankees, we'd know Rusty Greer. Everybody would know who Rusty Greer is.
Right.
But still, they're very compatible hitters, and one owned me and I own the other one.
And you announced your retirement October 2nd, 2005. What was that like, and how have you missed a game since you've been out of it?
Tell you the truth, it was probably easier for me than most people. 2000 was my last healthy year. After that, I tore my rotator cuff, destroyed the ACL cartilage and meniscus in my right knee. I ruptured the patella tendon in my left knee, and that last in July, I believe, or August of that last year, I tore the rotator a little bit again. So I knew I was pretty much done. I wasn't going to battle my way through the minor leagues the next season, and my knees were done. So for me, I was in a lot of pain, and I knew I was kind of coming to the end. And when I retired, a lot of that pain alleviated. So I kind of missed the game, but I don't think it was as bad as it was for a lot of players.
And today, with the exception of the Yankees, there's somebody that you follow, and are there a couple of players that you really like to watch?
Tell you the truth, I do not watch baseball on a daily basis. I follow it. I like looking at the paper and stuff, but I do not watch games until the playoffs. I mostly like the teams that are underdogs. So if you got the Red Sox and teams that have been around for a while and been in it, I kind of root against some of the Cardinals. So I'm also in Chicago, so now I'm rooting for the Cubs. I root for the White Sox. So it's tough too, because now that it's been 10 years, there's not a lot of players left for me to root for, because I used to root more for teams that I knew guys, and now the whole game's turned around. So I kind of tend to root for the underdog.
Hey, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'll tell you what, man, the Cubs are going to be really good this year. The White Sox are going to be pretty good too.
Yeah, I know, but see, if you're here in Chicago, you know not to have too much hope.
That is true. That is true.
Hope kills. Yeah, these people I feel bad for, because they're already talking about a World Series this year, and it's like, they weren't supposed to be that good last year. We'll see. You never know what's going to happen. Don't get your hopes up too much. Just root for them, and hopefully they do well.
Once again, Mr. Jim Mecir on Clubhouse Chatter. And is there a website that we could follow you at?
Sure. Just www.jimmecir.com or www.improvtalk.com.
Improv Talk. Jim, thank you for coming on the show, and let's do this again sometime.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, Jim. Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, Mr. Jim Mecir. Man, the guy had overcome quite a bit. I wonder how much of those injuries Brian had to, help with his career injuries.
Well, the guy, the last 4 or 5 years, he named off 4 or 5 major injuries that you just have one of those, and it's a tough road back.
Right. And so, yeah. So once again, the guy, Jim's right leg was 1 inch shorter than his left leg, and a right calf that was only half the size. He pitched 11 years in the major leagues.
It's impressive.
And so, I mean, to overcome that is pretty impressive. So once again, I'm Norm. That is producer Brian. We are Clubhouse Chatter. Hey, you could follow us a couple of different ways. You could follow us on Periscope. Hey, Periscope people, how are you? All but, 3 people maybe?
Yeah, you got 3.
And so, hey, lucky number 3. You can follow us on MLB.com blogs, Clubhouse Chatter. We're on YouTube. Check us out. I've been noticing we've been getting hits from Brazil and Ireland, Russia, China. So we're getting hits from around the world, which is what we want. So stick with us. We'll be back at 10 at 10. Our guest is just a man with one name, and we will call him Chop. He is is he a Portland radio legend? He's been around since 1997. He's been on the air, so why not? Why not? We'll call Chop a legend.
Okay.
And so he is with 750 AM The Game out of Portland. He has also been on KUFO among a couple of other stations. And Chop will come in and talk a little baseball with us. And then at 11, we're going to have the most interesting man in baseball. We're going to talk to him from Sicily. And that is Lenny Randall. Lenny Randall is putting on a camp and some baseball clinics, and I believe Nick Punto is with him. I don't know if Nick will be coming on the show or not, but yeah. So check us out. So we are sponsored by... I caught Brian's...
Try to do 3 things at once.
Baseballisms.com. If you like the hat I'm wearing, you can get it at baseballisms.com. We are also sponsored by baseballdudes.com. Chris Gazelle up there in Vancouver, Washington. To be the best, you must train like the best. Base by Pros. Skipper Mitch Canham, Clinton Lumber Kings up there in Washington, basebypros.com. His dad, Mark Canham, MDM Design, does our shirts and sweatshirts for us. If you'd like to order 1 or 2 or 3, let me know. We'll cut you a deal. And we always stream live on yamhilltoday.com. Check us out. Brian, I'm not even going to ask you about YST. Winter sports are starting to wind down.
They are. We got playoffs basketball coming up this week.
They do.
Already started in the lower levels.
So there you go. Hey, we're looking for sponsors. normbo18@gmail.com. And you can find us on Twitter, Clubhouse Chatter 1T, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, MLB.com blogs. I almost forgot about it there. So once again, I'm Norm. That's Brian. Hey, we'll be back at 10 o'clock.